All right, good morning. I'm gonna give it just a few more seconds to let any others that plan to join have a second to get into the room. All right, so in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Davina Hamilton. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm originally from Miami, Florida. I've been here at Jacksonville University for almost 11 years, and I love it here. My title, as you can see, is the Associate Dean of Students. Most people equate that with like the principal's office in your high school or school of sorts, your disciplinary office, but please know that while we do uphold university policies and conduct, we also are a good resource for students. We are very well connected to other constituents throughout the university and are always happy to help you guys with a number of things, including connecting you to really cool leadership opportunities. So we want to make sure that you grow and get what you can out of your college experience. So to talk about today, we're going to talk about community expectations. So we'll cover some of those do's and don'ts for once you get here at the institution. So if you don't know me, I am pretty straightforward, straight shooter. So this won't be like some of the other presentations you probably sat in. Yes, we're going to talk about drugs, we're going to talk about sex, we're going to talk about alcohol, and how that relates to your experience here at JU. So if you want to get your headphones, feel free to do so. Just know that hopefully this conversation will help you to have a positive experience once you get here to JU. All right, so community. When we talk about community expectations, I think it's important to sort of explain the framework that we mean by community. So when we talk about community, you're coming from a community. So I want you to think about your high school, right? Let's think about your neighborhood. Those were specific communities that served a specific purpose for you at that time. You're coming into JU, so JU will become your new community, and it will be like your neighborhood. You'll learn here, you'll live here, you'll eat here, you'll grow here. So please know that just like your communities back home, Jacksonville University also has community expectations. So that's why we're here today, just to talk about what's expected of you when you transfer into this community here at Jacksonville University. All right, so diversity. Where you're coming from probably have people from all walks of life. So does JU. We have people from different races, backgrounds, countries, you name it, different socioeconomic statuses, from different sexual orientations. So it's important to know that where you're coming is going to be representative of probably where you're coming from, if not more diverse. And it's going to be truly important for you guys to be ready and prepared to engage with people who have different ideals, backgrounds, and experiences from your own. And if that's not something you think you can get on board with, then JU may not be the place for you. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, we want you here, but we also want you to be ready to embrace different cultures and experiences while you're here. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about respect. So respect is big on the list for me. When you join a community with others who may be different from you, that's okay. You don't have to agree with every single thing a person either believes in or does, or some of the things that they just have as a person. You don't have to agree with all of that, but you do need to respect them. And that's huge. And a lot of what we'll focus on today is built on that, just respect. Our code of conduct is built on respect. So when you get here, I am going to talk to you like an adult, and I'm going to respect you. And I hope that I can get that same experience back from you. So as I mentioned, we talked a little bit about the code of conduct, and like I said, it's based on respect. So we have these 5 tenets that we go by: respect for yourself, respect for others, respect for property, respect for authority, and honesty. I really like to focus on the respect for yourself aspect. If you haven't already thought about that for yourself, it's important to have that conversation with yourself and reflect on what respect for yourself really means. So that means setting boundaries. What will you allow, what won't you allow during your college experience? So think about what respect means to you, and taking care of your well-being, your body, and things of that nature. Respect for others. Like I said, we talked about people from different walks of life and different communities. It's going to be really important that you all respect one another. Respect for property. So one of my big things is I don't come to your house, I don't kick your J's, I don't write on your walls, I don't mess up your grass. So when you come to this community, that same level of respect for property is expected. Don't come here writing on desks and destroying people's things, breaking doors. That's not what this is about. It's going to be a fun experience, but also it's going to be important to really respect the property. Respect for authority, that means your RA, that means your faculty. Again, you can have differences with those individuals, but always come from a place of respect, and obviously that will be the same experience that you get in return. Honesty. So let's say you have trouble with one of these and you find yourself in communication with me in my office or one of our other staff members with regard to the conduct process. It's always going to be best to just be honest. We try to have respectful conversations about everything that happens here on campus. So just be honest about it. I think that's the way you should probably navigate life in general, because it's very hard to remember lies. Oftentimes, it can be difficult to navigate once you've already set yourself up for failure. So please, please, please just be honest when you go through the process of anything in your life. I think it'll definitely be a helpful thing for you to experience. All right, now let's get to the reason why you're here. University policies, we're going to cover some of those. And again, that refers to expectations. And it's going to be crazy because you're going to hear me say some really simple words, but I hope they resonate for you guys. First, weapons. Don't. That's usually my approach to life. Don't bring any weapons here. We don't permit them. So weapons, let me be specific. No bow and arrows, no guns, no tasers, anything that could be used as a weapon. Don't bring it. Please don't. Just no, don't bring it. We do have a skeet and trap clay shooting team. Please know that they can't even bring their things here. Those items are kept off campus in a safe place. So don't bring it in your car. Don't have it here on campus at all. No weapons. Pretty straightforward, right? It's crazy. I have to stand up here and say this, but it exists for a reason. So don't bring any weapons to campus. Fighting. Don't. Don't fight. Don't put your hands on any other individuals. It usually doesn't resolve much, if anything. So if you think that you are getting to a point where it might come to a physical confrontation, you gotta peace out. You gotta walk away. Get someone to help you. You can come and find me, campus security, your RA, anyone that can help to de-escalate the situation. So zero tolerance. I don't want to have to send anybody back home to mom, dad, uncle, cousins, whoever, because you chose to fight. So don't fight. Don't put your hands on people. Pretty straightforward, but I gotta say it. Smoking, don't smoke. The main reason is Jacksonville University is a smoke-free campus. So you cannot smoke while you're here on campus. I don't really care what it is, cigarette, weed, you name it, you can't do it here because we are smoke-free. So just please, please, please make sure that you don't smoke. And I like to particularly key in on pot. I think a lot of students tend to think that it's the same pot that your grandparents or whoever was smoking back in the day, and it's not the same thing. Oftentimes this stuff is laced and can have a detrimental effect on you. So I've seen it, unfortunately, in my time in this role. So just don't do it. I think it's just safer to do that for you guys. Just don't smoke. Alcohol. Don't drink if you're not 21. So a little caveat when it comes to alcohol. We do abide by federal, state, and just the United States, the law. That's here. We do have international students that come from other countries where the age is different. It doesn't matter. Here, we do not allow students to drink if you're under the age of 21. So the first time you drink, it'll be a conversation like, why'd you do this? Who pressured you? And why did you say yes? Remember that respect for self we talked about? And then we'll have to review that. And we'll talk about just education and why maybe you made that decision that you did. The second time, though, if it happens again in like the first 2 weeks of school, we're going to have to talk to mom and dad because at that point, it would seem like maybe you didn't come here for the education that you are paying for. So we want to make sure that we address that. And please know that there's a fine that comes with that. And money be tight. So just make sure that we are all just being responsible and taking care of our bodies. One thing we always like to point out when it comes to alcohol is somebody's going to make a mistake. That's okay. College is a time for students to learn and grow. So medical amnesty that's on the screen, it just talks about, let's say me and a friend go out. We're both underage. I get really, really, really drunk. At one point, maybe she finds me on the ground unresponsive. At that point, call for help. It will always be our priority to take care of our students. We want to make sure that you guys leave the same way that you came in, whole, but just a little bit smarter. So please know that medical amnesty exists so that you can call for help without the fear of punishment, okay? So when in doubt, call 911, call your RA, call campus security, call whoever, just get help. Don't allow anyone to die on your hands because you're afraid of an alcohol policy violation or conversation. So please make sure that you know that that exists. Tell a friend. Again, it's not about getting you in trouble. It's about saving a life. Drugs. Don't do drugs. There used to be a really broad campaign that existed in the US, I think when I was a lot younger, DARE. It probably doesn't exist anymore, but don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. I think, again, pretty straightforward. And I know it's things that you've probably already heard. But again, drugs are just so different these days, and the impact that they can have on your body can be quite scary. Half the time you don't know what you're putting in your body. So just be cognizant of that because some of the stuff that is in there could be poisoning. So just make sure that you don't do drugs when you're here. Don't do drugs. Sex. All right, usually if we're in person, I get a couple chuckles out of undergrad students when they hear the word sex. And I usually get somebody saying, wait, we can't have sex? No, that's not what I'm saying. You can do what you want. I'm not gonna tell you what to do or what not to do. What I will say is don't have sex if you're not ready. And what that means is you should be able to have a conversation about sex. If that's, and I think that's a part of it, right? There are tons of other things that go into that. I'm not gonna give you the set talk. I'm happy to talk with you guys one-on-one if you need it. But you should be able to talk about sex. And when I say talk about sex, you should be like, I don't like it when you nibble on my ear that way. It makes me, it's wet in my ear. Or maybe you like it. Maybe you like certain positions more than others. So it's important to be able to have that conversation with your partner. You should be able to be naked and be comfortable with your partner and talk about what that experience might be like for you. So if sex is going to be on the table, it's going to be important to set those boundaries. It's going to be important to keep it private. I always tell this story about, man, I just be trying to get my coffee at the Starbucks, or I'm trying to get a little sandwich at Chick-fil-A, and I pull up behind a student and they're telling me all their business that I didn't ask about. You know why? Because they're just talking about it out loud to a friend who's in front or behind them. Like, man, I got laid last night and XYZ happened. Like, I don't care. I just want my coffee, or I just want my chicken sandwich. Either way, I think is super important for you to keep it private. It's not everybody's business what you are or aren't doing. So make sure that that's a part of the conversation that you have. Like I said, happy to have that conversation with anybody who needs a little bit more insight or how to navigate that, but just know that sex is something that we talk about here at the college level. So if we can help you navigate that, feel free to reach out. The other thing I mentioned about sex is condoms are available. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about that. Okay, go to the counseling center. I even think one of the offices in the David Student Commons may have some. So please, please, please just make sure that you protect yourself. That's going to be super important, especially with all the things out in the world. Alcohol, drugs, and sex. So there is going to be a shift in the conversation here shortly. So I do want to set that up. But all three together can be dangerous. And that's something that I think it's important to talk about. Like sometimes I think young adults like to lean on drugs and alcohol when they are interested in maybe pursuing sex. And I don't recommend that that's something that you do. Especially not if it's going to be your first time or you're new at this, but also just don't do drugs and sex. It's just not usually a good idea. So I would like to just talk about how sometimes you're not in control of all of your faculties when you combine these things. So I'm gonna tell you a quick story. It is a true story. And I do want to just a trigger warning that it does involve something that was very, very challenging. So there were two students. They identified as male and female. They were students at JU. really good friends. And they used to hang out all the time in each other's rooms. But again, they were just friends. One night, a few weeks into the semester, they decided to go to a party. So the two of them went to the party. The male student got really, really, really drunk. And the female student didn't partake. She just went, wanted to have fun, but the male student got particularly drunk. They came back to campus and they went to her room. Again, they had been there a million times because they're just good friends. And that's sometimes what friends do. You hang out in each other's rooms. So once on campus, they go up to her room. And for some reason, he takes off his shoes right at her front door. And then they go inside, close the door. Once inside, the male student attempts to kiss her and tries to move forward with some sexual acts on the female student, to which she says no. She asked him to stop, at what point he didn't. So the most brilliant thing happened. This female student, she then says, okay, wait, if you go to your room and get a condom, we'll do it, okay? He gets all excited. He runs out of the room. As soon as he runs out of the room, she closes the door, she locks it. So of course he comes back with his condom, all excited and ready to go. Bangs on the door. She of course doesn't answer. He eventually walks away. So the next day, she then goes and reports this to a staff member at the university. And one of the craziest things about that story is, remember when he came over, he got excited and took off his shoes outside the door. The next day, his shoes were still right outside that door. So while it was a very traumatizing experience for the young lady, she was very thoughtful on her feet. And that next morning when the report was made, you came back and saw the shoes right outside the door. So needless to say, that student, the male student, is no longer at this institution. We do take it very seriously. So when we talk about some of these things like alcohol, drugs, and sex, and you put them all to play at the same time, sometimes negative things happen, and we don't want that experience for any of our students. So I say this not in jest, but just so that students are aware of some of the effects that alcohol and drugs can have on you when you are engaging with some of your probably your lifelong friends, or hopefully your lifelong friends, or close to you. So keep that in the back of your mind when you are thinking about some of this stuff. It's just, you want to be safe, okay? So with that, we'll talk a little bit about sexual misconduct. So we do have a Title IX policy, and some of you may be aware regulations are changing, but that doesn't mean that we still won't hold students accountable for any of these types of sexual misconduct behaviors, which can include sexual assault, coercion, dating violence, stalking is one that I think most people probably aren't as, adept of, but it's real. So please know that all of these fall under the umbrella of Title IX and will be addressed through our office. One thing we like to spend a little bit of time on is consent. So when it comes to, like I said, sex and those boundaries, it needs to be voluntary and informed. So it's a lot of words. I'm not going to read these line by line, but communication is key. It's always going to be key. You got to say yes. Okay, so silence can't be inferred, or being passive or not being as resistant. That's not a yes. Okay, it needs, the absence of a no does not imply consent. So please, please, please know that. Incapacitation. So you can't be knocked out or unconscious and expect someone to want to or have sex. So there's a pretty cool video that I'm about to share with you guys. If you haven't seen it, if you want to watch it, it's kind of funny, but I think it gets the point across. So hopefully it helps to make this even more clear.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please. That's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, but you wanted tea last night. But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
All right, so like I said, that sort of plays consent from a different perspective, but I think hopefully it gets the point across, right? Just because we had tea, aka sex, last week, doesn't mean I want sex next week or the week after that. Same thing, same concepts apply. So just if you want to go back and look at that, just go to YouTube. It's a really fun video, but a good way to talk about consent. So the tea consent video. So in the event that we do find ourselves in a predicament where something like that does occur, please know that there are options here on campus. So again, the Title IX regulations may change. So it's important to pay attention to that email that will come from Dr. Christy Gover, your Dean of Students, my boss and mentor. So make sure that you pay attention to that when it comes out once the school year starts. But just know that there are a ton of people you can talk to about the experience. Confidentially, you can talk to the Student Counseling Center and they can walk you through and support you through that process as well if you would not like to share that with anyone else. All right, we always like to talk about resources. It's going to be important that you guys are aware of that. If you haven't already, there are third millennium education modules that are waiting to be completed by you. You have to do it. It's a requirement, not just by the university, but in general, so make sure you do that. We also have a Green Dot bystander intervention program. So maybe you're around when something like this happens. It teaches you about the 3Ds that you can do. You can distract them by dancing, spilling a drink, or whatever it is. You can directly intervene, or you can delegate. You can tell somebody like me or tell campus security and we can get help. But it's a really cool program that's pretty interactive. One Love Escalation, it just talks about the relationship between two students that unfortunately ended in tragedy. So while the story that's told in the One Love program isn't the direct story of the student who experienced it, Yardley Love, it is an adaptation that her family created, her mom in particular, created a foundation to educate young adults like yourselves when it comes to healthy relationships. So there is a section, I think a session on healthy relationships, so please tune into that so you can learn about what behaviors to look for when you're pursuing a partner. And the only thing I'll say about that too is if you're coming with the boo, break up with them before you get here. Yeah, you can tell them I said it, show them this video. 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna work out. And sometimes it can be limiting to your experience because you're so focused on boo back home that you're not focusing on all the things that are at your fingertips here, both academically and socially. So, yep, I said it, break up with your boo back home. Other resources I like to share include the Student Counseling Center, who also have had sessions, my office, the Student Inclusion Center. You got student government, so even your student body is representative of students here on campus that can help support you through your journey. Campus safety and security, they're here 24/7. and are always here to help however they can. The Residential Life Team, you have professional staff members that reside in your buildings who can often be a resource for you. There's the Disability Support Services who can help you with your academic accommodations and so many more. It's really important to know who your people are here. So whether that's amongst this community that's here on this call, the people on your hall, the organizations that you join, or the staff here, we're here, we're all a part of the same community, and we want it to be amazing, and we want it to be a great experience for you. So please know that all of us are here to make that come true for you. So as a double dolphin, I graduated from JU twice. I hope this information is helpful. And I'm always here to talk about my experience and how I can help you have a really good, tremendous experience here as well. So I will gladly open it up for any questions that you guys might have. Always happy to address any questions or concerns you may have.
Thank you so much, Davina, for this really engaging presentation. We really appreciate the information. So a couple of questions came up in the chat, but they've been answered by other staff members. So excited to see that. So check out the chat. The question came in about where do I rewatch this? You will go to your Blackboard and there will be a link to our YouTube channel for you to watch all of the presentations, including this one. It takes us about a day to get them up. So check it out within the next couple of days for this newest recording. If you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. But Davina, I've been asking all of our presentations this one question as we wait for questions to come through the chat. So what is your top piece of advice to students coming into their JU experience?
Ooh, I would say my top piece of advice is to be open. You're gonna meet so many people if you're open to it. You're gonna try a bunch of things if you're open to it. You're gonna learn a lot about yourself if you're open to it. So I would say come into your JU experience ready to learn, grow, and develop. So I think if you're open to all of those things, then you'll see how that pays dividends, I think, to your experience. So yeah, be ready.
Yeah, I love that. Being open to new experiences, new people, and new opportunities. I love that. So I haven't seen any other questions come into the chat. I have a question about alcohol-wise and consent. Go ahead and send me an email and I can follow up with you specifically if you're having trouble accessing it. But those two tests will be available in your MyJU portal. So go to my.ju.edu for information and follow the instructions that you've gotten in email. So if there's no other questions, thank you so much again for this presentation, and we will post it on our YouTube channel very soon. Thank you, Davina.
All right, thanks guys, have fun, and I look forward to seeing y'all soon.